Hello. There's a popular thought meme going around on the internet saying that farmers apparently didn't work as much as we do today, and life in the Middle Ages, being a peasant in the Middle Ages, was much easier than living under this evil capitalist hellhole. To say the first obvious thing, yes, it's quite difficult being a modern man in this society. There is far too much work on a regular person. There is far too much pressure. The world is far too noisy. There are many problems that are all true and valid. But we shouldn't go around dismissing or invalidating or ignoring the true struggle our ancestors, our great grandfathers and beyond, and grandmothers, of course, had to toil and struggle in the field to provide for us, for their children, grandchildren, and we're struggling and doing this for us too, for our modern selves to be more free, more comfortable, and shouldn't have to struggle and worry as much as they did. Because life in the Middle Ages, especially for a peasant, was quite difficult. Meme that we see going around is that humans apparently only worked few days of the years, and the rest of them they spent however they wanted, doing things for themselves. That is partially true because it's winter time and you can't directly work with Earth because Earth is frozen. It cannot provide at this moment. So during cold periods and after harvest, there is not a lot of earth work to do. You had more quote unquote free time from farming to do other things. But we forget what those other things are. Upholding a household during that period was very difficult, and provide for your family during that time because jobs and work that we do today is astronomically easier than it was during pre-industrialization and most of industrialization too, because most of history, even today, unfortunately, many parts of the earth, right here, for example, we don't have direct water source and we have to use wells. Thankfully, we have machines that provide us water and we don't have to constantly use the buckets to get water for our household chores. There are, of course, electricity and gas that we can use to provide heat and warmth to our house when before then you had to go into the woods to get the wood for your family. That was a months and months of work that you have to pre-cut and pre-bring woodwork that you can fuel your house later on. And of course, preserving your food is a lot of work. Taking care of the animals, that is taking care of, there is fishing, there is hunting. It is a constant work to provide for yourself and for your family enough food to not die this year. This is the struggle that kind of ignore when we say, oh, they didn't have to work as much. No, they didn't have to work as much like we do in the modern age, but they had to do much more work to get much less out of the earth, the environment, than we do today because there are no pesticides back then. Many crops went bad. There weren't no hoses and ways to directly water your plants. So if there is no rain, you are fucked. There are no modern medicine to protect us from diseases that are so common to old world than it is to today. There is no medicine. And going back to work, one of the main points people ignore that you had to provide everything for yourself. That means clothing, footwear, or made in home or by your friend or a neighbor that you traded or asked really kindly to provide your clothes for. And that might seem nice because it was nice. Community was more connected. You had to provide for your neighbor so they would provide for you. For example, I might be a better cobbler than my neighbor, but my neighbor is much better sewer, so they can make me some clothes, so I will make some footwear for them. But imagine you don't have such a neighbor. None of you are good cobblers, or none of you are good clothes manufacturer tailors. You either had to make your clothes, had to have a connection to someone who could provide you with clothing and um, tools and all the things that you need to survive in a farm, or you were fucked. You couldn't go down to your local shop to buy resources that you needed. You either had to make all of that, have a friend that made all of that, or had to go into the city to buy all of that. Which all of those things were very difficult. And let not forget the main thing that defined the Middle Ages. It's the aristocracy. It's the noble class. It's the lords and the peasants.
I am Arthur, King of the Britons. Whose castle is that?
King of the who?
The Britons.
Who are the Britons?
Well, we all are. We are all Britons. And I am your king.
You, my friend, were very, very lucky if you owned the land that you lived on. You were considered a gentry, a higher class of society. Nobles, of course, were higher, but after nobles, the middle class were smaller landowners. For example, if I was a farmer who owned his acre like I do today, my family owns our own land, we are very happy and very provided because all the resources that we gain go to us and maybe some to the king. But if you are a regular peasant, a peasant, you are a property of your lord.
What does he think he is?
I am your king.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
You don't vote for kings.
Maybe not directly, but the land that you are living, rent culture might be difficult today, but imagine every land is owned by someone and you have to rent it from them. Just to live in your own hut and work till from the sun goes down till you pass out from labor. All the hut, the sheep, the cattle, and the farm that you work on was owned by the Lord, not by you. So you were actually working for them for the privilege of gaining at least half of the resources that you created. Yeah. The capitalist, the evil capitalist, take 20% of my labor, or the business that I work for takes so much for me. Yes, that is true. Capitalism is hard, but being a peasant is harder because at least you get to keep some of your work and you can choose where to work and you can choose what job to do and you can say, hey, maybe I don't want to live in the city anymore. I should buy land and work for myself. This is a privilege that we have in 21st century. They didn't have it during Middle Ages. Either you were a peasant, literal peasant, slightly above from an animal, human being with no rights.
Come and see the violence inherent in the system. Help, help, I'm being repressed. Bloody peasant. Oh!
Another property of a lord that you worked for them, raised their sheep, raised their grass, raised their food, but you were provided slight privileges of eating some of the food that you made. I think we should appreciate the work our ancestors did and maybe appreciate the struggle that we are struggling, which is difficult, but not as difficult as our ancestors. Does it help to pay your rent knowing that your great great grandfather literally didn't own the house that he and his family lived for 50 generations? No. But maybe take solace into that fact that they struggled so hard in the hopes that you, their grandchildren and great great grandchildren, their family of the future would be a bit more luxurious with their struggles.
So, by the grace of God and power of ancestors, my previous video kinda blew up. I thank my dear viewers who stuck around and welcome new ones. Welcome, one and all, to my channel. I already made a lot of interesting videos covering history of armor making, mythology of Caucasus and surrounding areas, and a lot of other mad ramblings you can check out, and be sure that I will make more and more better content. And I would like to thank my patrons who light the fire in the furnace of my dwarven soul. So, if you'd like to add to the flames of my content forge, please like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, and if you can spare, support me on Ko-fi or Patreon.
Bye.